Well, folks, in today's video, we're back up in Merrickville, Ontario for a second visit to Larkspur Line Train Store. I did a video of this store not that long ago, actually, but we happened to be up in the area again, and there were a few things which I had seen on the previous visit, which I was sort of interested in getting, so I thought I'd go back and see if they have those items, as well as just have another general look around to see if any new items had appeared. And there were actually a few. So, here we are inside the store, and I have to say, even though I was here only a couple weeks prior, it was still really exciting getting to go here again. It's just such a fun store. So, here's their display case. A lot of this stuff is stuff that may look familiar from previous visits, although I did find one thing which was sort of unusual, which was a Canadian Pacific Norfolk Southern unit. Never seen anything quite like that before. I don't know if those are real or not, but they're pretty unusual, I gotta say. I will say the model looked pretty authentic, but I suspect it's the work of somebody's own creativity. Over here, they had a variety of different engines in the box. I think the engines that they sell in this section are basically used, but good enough to not sell on consignment, so these are all at slightly higher prices than the stuff that's in the consignment section, but there are still some good deals to be had over here, and there definitely is some interesting stuff. Look at this unit right here from Cato. Now here's something I don't show too much on this channel, which is going through these old bins of vintage rolling stock, and I really should more often because sometimes you can find something interesting. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in here which is really not that uncommon and you can find pretty easily, but once in a while you just find something that's sort of interesting. You know, maybe it's an old Tyco piece of some kind, maybe it's something like this old Bachmann chicken car there. Just, you know, random little knickknacks I find. I mean, I found this royal blue caboose. I thought that was pretty interesting, and the stuff being sold in this section is all so cheap. Like, you're not gonna really pay more than $4 for anything out of this bin, so if you see something you like, it's really no big deal if you want to pick it up. Here was another bin of old rolling stock being sold on consignment. Some of this stuff is missing wheels, but there are still some fine little pieces in here. I was finding a lot of these Baby Ruth cars. I don't know, maybe these are less rare than I thought. And then I found this little bobber. This thing was going for a little bit more expensive than the other stuff, but I thought that was kind of cool. I also had that, which was sort of strange, in this Purina boxcar. And just kind of more regular, conventional railway stuff. Now, over here in the main consignment section, they actually did end up having a couple of small items which I hadn't seen on the previous visit, which was sort of interesting. I think the most notable one out of all of them, though, was a small 040 switcher, which was basically being sold off for $5. I mean, just sort of interesting, being sold as is. They also had these old streetcars. These were sort of interesting. I think they were by Bachmann. They weren't powered, so I didn't end up picking them up, but they could be kind of cool on someone's layout. I've got to say, this store really has some great deals. I mean, I don't think any store could beat that price, but, you know, it was okay. And then they also had some junk to track, but I had something else in mind. Alright, so I'm now obviously back home from Larkspur, and I bought a whole variety of things, which I have right here. I'm going to go through everything from smallest to largest, so yeah, I guess I'll begin with the smallest of items. The first one, I guess, being these rail joiners, which I bought right here. There was a whole bunch of rail joiners in this pack. I don't know the exact amount, but these were only going for, like, $3 Canadian, so really not that bad. They're usually a little bit more. And then I also bought this other pack of rail joiners. This one was going for $5. But those are actually going to be going towards a project which I have coming up in the near future. Sort of a wild plan. I might go into detail about that in a little bit, because I bought some more items that are related to that. But anyway, let's move on to the next item, which is, let me see if I can find it in here. It's not all that big. I was going through this random bin of various parts, and I found this. This is the front to a boiler. When I visited there back in January, they actually had a River Aussie steam engine, which I bought for, I think, like 15 bucks or something. It really wasn't that much. But anyway, it didn't have a boiler front, so I've got that now. And this was going for $1.50, so really not too bad. A lot cheaper than what you would buy it off of, say, eBay for sure. Now on to, well, about the fourth smallest item that I bought, and this is a little bobber caboose. I've always wanted one of these little bobber cabooses. This was going for $8 Canadian. It's not the greatest deal, but, you know, it seems not too bad, and frankly, I just really wanted one of these, so, hey, what the heck. This is an old one. I think it's by Bachman. And I'm sure I'll be able to put this towards a small project. I think I want to make a really tiny layout, so it's going to have obviously a small locomotive, and this can be the caboose on it. So there's that. And I guess the kind of second smaller thing I bought was this old Royal Blue caboose. This is, of course, related to the Royal Blue steam locomotive, which I actually bought at the same place back in 2018. Yeah, why not? Just a cool little caboose. Can't really go wrong with these old Tyco cabooses. They're just sort of interesting. So I thought, hey, I'll just buy one of those too. I think this was selling for like $4 Canadian, so really not that expensive either. So there's both of those. And now on to something a little bit more interesting. They had this locomotive. $5.50 for this little unit right here. Really nothing too expensive. This is an old Lima. It's a Southern Pacific. I have a fair amount of these little 040 steam engines, but I'm quite a fan of them. I just find them a lot of fun. And, hey, $5, you know, that's really not that bad. I was just like, yeah, I'll make a fun little project. And, yeah, it just seems sort of interesting. Southern Pacific, too, and I don't think I have one from Southern Pacific, so that's also sort of unique. No idea if this runs or not. I guess we can go over to the track in a minute and test it. But, yeah, it looked a little bit kind of worse for wear. There's actually a bit of rust and stuff on it. But, frankly, I kind of like it when they're in rougher condition because that probably means they'll make for fun projects. So, yeah, why not? So there's all of those. Now, there's one more thing in this bag. But before that, I just want to show kind of one of the largest things I bought. I was able to buy all of this track right here, and this is related to some crazy idea I have, which also ties into the rail joiners. I don't think I'm going to say exactly what it is, but let's just say I wanted to get a ton of track for whatever this project is. Some of you might know. Anyway, these pieces, if you want to buy these new, these will go for, in Canada, about $8 to $7. They're really expensive. Now, this is used, so some of these pieces are in kind of crummy shape. You can see there's a little bit of ballast. But ultimately, they're nickel silver, which is one thing that I wanted, and they're not warped or anything. They just need basically to be cleaned up a bit. And he sold me all of these for $2 a piece, so you have Canadian toonie for each of these. Not too bad. Definitely cheaper than the $7 I would have had to pay if I wanted to buy this stuff new. So, yeah, there's all of that. And now on to the final thing I bought. I think it's the final thing. Yeah, that's everything. Which is this. It's a Canadian Pacific SD 40-2 with a custom paint scheme. Now, this was going for $30 Canadian, which for an old blue box, it's alright. But here's the thing that kind of got me a bit interested in it. It says right here, Locomotive Project Sd 40-2 with Decoder. Apparently there's a decoder in this thing. Runs but needs to be cleaned. And then in brackets the wheels, custom paint. $30. So, yeah, the fact that this thing has a decoder and it potentially runs, hey, why not? So, yeah, I'm actually curious though. I just realized this is, I guess, not the original price. Yeah, this was originally being sold for $50, so $30, not bad. Anyway, why don't we get this thing out of the package here. I'd seen this the previous visit. I think there were two of them. One was in much rougher shape. It was missing parts. And that one I think was going for $20, so I'd much rather pay the extra $10 and have one with all the parts intact. That's the thing. When you buy a project locomotive, I suggest not buying ones that are missing too many parts, because if you want to buy these things cheap, if you go searching for parts, that's where you're gonna wind up spending a lot of money. But if you can buy these things where they're fully intact like this, basically, just as long as you're willing to kind of put some work into them, they'll definitely not disappoint price-wise. And this is just a really cool locomotive. I really like the SD40-2s, so I kind of thought buying one like this would be sort of cool. So anyway, that's all the things I bought at Larkspur. Now, why don't we go try to see if these locomotives run, because I honestly have no idea what kind of working order these are in. It's sort of vague given by the description. I guess this one kind of runs and this one maybe. Let's find out. Alright, so let's begin testing the locomotives. We'll start off with the Lima. I kind of am doubtful this thing's going to run because I kind of just tried when I first took it out of the package there to turn it. It kind of turns, but it seems sort of stiff, so maybe it will run. I really can't tell. But in any case, let's set this thing up on the track here. And yeah, let's give it some power. Turning up the voltage here. Oh, I saw a little thing of current there. Yeah, you can kind of hear it's humming a little. And this thing is not in great shape. I just noticed there's actually a hole in the roof there. Oh, but it's trying to go. I'm sure you can see the wheels are turning just ever so slightly. Let's try changing the direction. Sometimes that helps. It's definitely seized, but we are seeing some signs from the motor, so it might not be entirely hopeless, so that will make for an interesting project. Anyway, on to the next locomotive, which is, of course, our Canadian Pacific SD40-2. Now, we're going to try this thing initially on DC, just to see if we can actually get it to do anything. I suspect if this thing does have a decoder, it's going to have a really old decoder in it. It just looks like something from like the early 2000s, late 90s. I mean, the locomotive is probably from maybe, I don't know, the early 90s or late 80s. And the decoder, though, couldn't be. I think decoders were late 90s, early 2000s, so. And, well, what we see, we've got a light of some sort. But, yeah, that does not seem to want to start. Let's see if we can get anything on DCC. So we'll switch my track over here. Put some power into the layout. I mean, that's kind of odd. The light just came on there, but in any case, it's 5865, so we'll see if it responds to that. 5865. And we got nothing. And the only other one I can think of is possibly the default decoder setting. And still absolutely nothing, so it really looks like this is going to be a project as well. I am kind of curious, though, what kind of decoder is actually in this thing. What the... It does not look much like a DCC decoder to me. I don't even know what that is. That's some strange stuff going on in there. The motor and whatnot looks okay. Maybe there is a decoder, though, because those wires... I don't know. This whole thing is really strange. But in any case, I guess it will make for an interesting project there. So with that, I will finish off the video. I want to thank you all so much for watching.